IB Ozone Economics, how to add 60K in high margin revenue to your clinic. And here's what we're going to cover in the next 45 minutes. We're really going to work hard to keep this tight because we know you're busy. So we're going to talk about the annual revenue potential. What can you realistically expect? Startup costs. What does it take to actually get going with ozone in your clinic? What do profit margins look like? And what's the ROI timeline between your investment in equipment and training and actually turning a profit, and then real numbers from a real practice so you can see what this actually looks like in the wild. And willing to share that with us today is Dr. Ryan Myers, who's our guest. He is a doctor of chiropractic with many certifications, including Ozone. He's the founder of the Movement Clinic, which is an integrative medicine center in the Salt Lake City area. He has multiple Best in State awards for Utah, and he's a leading expert in treating chronic and complex illnesses like SIRS, Lyme, autoimmune, chronic fatigue, and cognitive decline. So, welcome, Dr. Myers. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you. It's happy to be here. This is a great topic, and great to talk with other clinicians, people who are out here trying to do the same thing, help people get better. So I'm excited to visit with you guys today. Um, but just a little bit more about me. So, we'll talk about this. But yes, I've been doing ozone been involved in ozone as both a patient and a practitioner for probably over a decade at this point. Um, and in our clinic, we see everything from sports injury, pain, musculoskeletal to the chronic illness functional medicine side. And yes, we use ozone in all of the above. So, ozone is a fantastic tool. And I hope some of the things that we talk about today are how to understand that a tool is a tool, but if in the right hands, you can actually build mansions for people in their health. And that's the goal. And that's why we're all here. Um, so as we go to the next slide in the chat, if you can put a number one, if you're currently using ozone in any way, shape, or form in your practice in the chat box, so we can see who's doing that, and a two if you are not using ozone yet in the chat box.
We have one, 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 two, one, two, two, one, 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 one. Just started. One, I use it personally. Two,
Awesome.
two.
Okay, so we got a mix here, which is great. Now today is not for those twos, but even for those ones, today is not necessarily the what is ozone from a clinical standpoint. We've done several webinars on those in the past that we're going to do more. We'll talk about other ways we can get access to that information. Um, the easiest way to think about this is ozone is a molecule, a substance that we can use to address a variety of different conditions. And once we truly understand what ozone is and how it works, that's where the best way when I first got introduced into ozone, and we'll talk about this a little bit, is to understand how and why to utilize ozone from a clinical perspective. You have to start thinking biologically, meaning that even with pain or a tissue injury, there are multiple physiological systems that are at play, which are causing those symptoms that you're trying to relieve. When we're dealing with chronic health issues or more systemic health issues, now we're dealing with multiple and a variety of dysregulated symptoms. And so instead of thinking diagnostically, because we get hung up on name tags, I think sometimes in healthcare, but when we can start to think biologically of understanding, okay, I tell my patients, like, look, you came in with 8 name tags you've been given, and regardless of if those are real or not, we have to understand what's going on in your body biologically so we know the right tools stacked together at the right cadence, frequency, and dosage to help correct that biology, and then name tags disappear. So, ozone is one of the best tools that I have found that, when leveraged and utilized in the right program, protocol, or experience, we can help bring those different systems and biology of a patient's biology and physiology back into alignment. Um, the easiest visual I give people is if your immune system is a 100-piece orchestra, most patients show up to me where a third of the orchestra is playing the same song but at different parts. Another piece of the orchestra is playing a different song, and the other part's doing who knows what. And so this is why we're getting chaos. Ozone is the perfect modulator to help bring everybody back to the same sheet of music, the same piece, so that then we can start supporting and correcting symptoms and help healing. So that's all we're probably going to talk about today about what ozone is chemically, clinically. But I want to put that in your minds, even if you're using it, the goal today is how can I leverage this and use this more effectively, more efficiently to not only drive patient outcomes, which that's why we got into what we're doing is we want to help people get better. But if you're here, you're probably a business owner or a general manager or something that you're involved or tied responsibly to the revenue or the success of the business. And I find in healthcare, a lot of times people get like eggshelly around talking about making money off of things to help people heal. But the reality is, if we can't keep our lights on and our doors open, we can't help people heal. And ozone is a phenomenal tool that accomplishes both. We can help so many different types of people, but because of how it works economically, it's a great boost to help really the health outcomes of your business at the same time. So why patients want ozone? So top conditions. So again, if you think how I kind of preface this of thinking biologically, once you understand the mechanisms of ozone, I can literally apply ozone to anybody for almost anything safely, with extremely, extremely rare exceptions. Everything on this list are things that we've done and used in our clinic. Athletic performance and recovery is huge. And this is one I think that actually is probably underutilized. But we do protocols here where it's like, hey, the big marathon's coming up. You're going to come do ozone like 2 days before, and then you're going to run on Saturday, and you're going to come in Monday and get it again. And you'll actually have better performance and recover faster because of how this works on the physiology and biology, chronic infections, so everything like SIRS, which is derived from biotoxin, post-viral and or current viral, by the way, is phenomenal. That ties over to kind of mold and Lyme. All these kind of chronic infections, chronic inflammatory dysregulation conditions, which a lot of us are seeing and dealing with. Um, Cancer support. In all honesty, my clinic, I don't treat a lot of cancer patients. It's just not who we get. However, we have had a lot of current people that are going through chemo and or radiation, and they want to come in 2 or 3 days afterwards to get ozone to help them recover from their treatment. Now, there's a lot of research out there about how it can actually help improve those outcomes, but again, we're not talking about that today. Autoimmunity, 100%, because if you think about how ozone works as an immune modulator, we have to modulate the immune system when it's out of control in an autoimmune state. And yes, neurological brain. We've used everything from Parkinson's to TBI, concussions, neuropathies, and everywhere in between. Um, so just a little bit of a personal history. So I actually got introduced to ozone, if I'm doing the math now, probably about 12, 13 years ago. My wife went through a chronic health journey. At the time, I put Lyme in quotes because it was diagnosed as Lyme. We probably know better now that there's probably some other things, but either way, it was part of that chronic immune dysregulation that I was talking about, where we've got this 100-piece orchestra doing all different types of things, causing what typically gets caused mystery illness or a silent illness. At the time, because of what was going on, we actually found a clinic through her mother who was going through similar um, health issues, that had found a clinic in Mexico that she was going to for treatment. And that's where I first got introduced to ozone. Um, and those who know ozone because you're doing it, those that aren't sure, I tell patients this. My first ozone experience, I was in like this little closet room in this clinic in Mexico with a sweet little nurse who didn't speak any English and just drawn out my tons of my blood, hanging it from her bag. And I was laying there texting my wife saying, I think I'm going to die in Mexico. Um, and it started changing my life from a health standpoint, even though I was not dealing with the same chronic health issues there. And I saw how it helped heal. Again, once we started to understand how this works biologically, it can apply to any name tag that walks into your office. Now, what I put on here, and we'll talk about this as we go too, again, but stacked, never alone. Rarely am I ever just putting somebody on an ozone protocol. And when I talk with clinics who are struggling with figuring out how to implement this, this is part of the things we'll talk about. Stacked therapies produce better results than individual therapies almost all the time. And that's where we understand biologically, if we know what's sitting in front of us and we know what tools we have, we can create the program, protocol, and experience. So ozone was such an integral piece, but as we tagged it with things like hyperbarics, with things like detox, with things um, homeopathic. There are so many different things, but ozone, once that was introduced into her journey, things were never the same and really shifted. So patient demand. We live now, unless you've been living under a rock, social media is huge. Ozone is getting talked about all over out there. And we do in our clinic now have patients call us asking if we offer ozone. It is something that is being talked about, I would say, more now than it was even 2 or 3 years ago. Um, it's because there are smart and good practitioners like yourselves that are starting to use this. There are patients who are starting to talk about it in their influential and social media backgrounds. The word's getting out, even though ozone's been around. I mean, Micah could tell us better, but for probably close to 100 years, ozone's been used safely and amazingly in healing modalities. But we're starting to get more questions. And my personal belief is in the last 5 to 6 years, we've had some experiences where people are starting to vote for their healthcare with their own dollars and are trying to look for amazing, effective treatments that are outside of the conventional, but can fix problems that a conventional can't. So if you just start looking at some math here, if you get 2 to 3 patients a month that are doing on average $250 per ozone treatment, I mean, you can read this. That equals about $6,000 to $9,000 a year, just a couple patients a month. So over 5 years, there becomes a huge potential revenue that you could have gained in your clinic. And the numbers that we're not going to talk about today from a business standpoint, because we're just talking about ozone numbers. If you're a patient in my practice, you're not just doing ozone, you're doing hyperbarics, you're doing supplements, you might be doing peptides, you might be doing stem, you might be like, so now it's here's all the stuff that I know how to utilize and are good. So those 2 to 3 patients in ozone might generate, let's just call it 6 grand a year, but in other treatments, they might generate another 20 to 30,000. So really ozone is one of these kind of like a gateway where you have somebody asking for treatment. And when somebody calls me for an ozone or calls our office is trained to say, well, why are you looking for ozone? Not, oh yeah, we do. It costs 250. You can come in tomorrow. It's like, well, no, why are you doing this? What are you looking for? What have you tried? And then you start learning more about what's going on so that you know how to do this. So strictly talking business, let's look at some of this revenue reality and what this means for our clinic. So nationwide, and these numbers are real. These come from studies that Metaskill and have done, but on average, and what we're talking about is MAH, so IV ozone. There's lots of different ways to apply ozone. We do a lot of ozone injections in our office. That's another conversation, but typically, typical IV ozone, which is the most common, safe way to do this, on average, you're going to see these are being charged $150 to $300 per session per IV. Depending on your equipment costs and nurse costs or paying your staff, you're looking at an 85 to 90% margin, profit margin. There are not many services we do that have that type of margin, even with the fixed cost of IV supplies. In my office, the only thing that's better than this is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, because once the chamber's paid for, it's 100% margin putting patients in there all day. And by the way, I stack the two of these all the time. So an annual revenue potential, if you start playing some of these numbers, so really over the last few years, based on research that's been done and gathered from clinics that are doing ozone, the average is $60,000 in revenue. And if you break that down, that comes out to about 2 treatments a day. Um, Now, there are clinics that are doing over 350. There are clinics who have bought ozone equipment, probably like a lot of us have bought some piece of equipment that's now just collecting dust and is an expensive towel drying rack in the back room that are doing nothing. But this average is clinics that are learning how to stack this, how to use this, how to recommend it, and to who um, are can make about $60,000 a year on average. So when we're looking at my clinic, we're kind of right there. But again, for me, the realized revenue is everything else this patient is doing because we almost always build it into treatment plans. So your equipment and setup to get generators and all those types of things is about $4,000, give or take. And again, in our office, we charge $150, and so our costs are roughly $25 per treatment. Um, and then typical patient. Now in our office, again, because they're built into treatment plans, I'd say I ran some, I went back and looked. On average, our patients are probably doing between 10 to 15 treatments in their lifetime. Now we have patients that are doing way more. We have patients that might only do 2 to 5, depending on an acute situation. But I would say it's 10, maybe even closer to 15, depending on what we're doing. So really, we break even on this in only a couple patients. So when you start talking about investment in a therapy, from an equipment standpoint, it does not take a lot before you start making money. So I went back and looked, and yeah, last year in IV ozone revenue alone, we did over 65,000. If I were to do a deeper dive report on those patients that made that revenue, the number would be closer to 150 to 200,000 of what those patients brought into us because ozone was a piece of what we did with them, built into an entire plan. And for me, 100% of the treatments are done by staff. Some of you might be the nurses that are doing that. But for me, I don't do any of the IVs. I meet with the patients, I write the treatment plans, and my staff carries it out. So it's something that can happen 100% without me being here and can be building and growing our business. So, how to sell ozone to patients? So, again, not to beat a dead horse, but I think going back to where I started off, once you truly understand what it does and how it can benefit, then you can do some really fun things with ozone. Just like anything else that we do in your office, at the end of the day, all ozone is a hammer. It's a really cool hammer. And this is the other thing I tell people when they call in, like, well, I did ozone over there and it didn't work. And I'm like, well, ozone, just because the name is the same doesn't mean the application is the same. There's dosage, there's frequency, and there's applying it to you and what you need. So really, if we can make you guys as clinicians understand how, when, where, why, how frequent, how much ozone to use, and this is one of the things that we're working towards to educate on, then the whole man, including ozone in patient care, becomes second nature. And so adding to existing stacks. So one of the things I love to do when I'm working with a clinic is you tell me as a clinician, what are you already really good at? What do you already do? Who are the people that are coming in? When your ideal people are coming in, what are the treatments and therapies they're doing? What does a common treatment plan look like? Because then you can say, oh, well, did you actually know that when you add ozone to hyperbarics, when you add ozone to a Myers cocktail, when you add ozone to a musculoskeletal treatment, we can actually stack and compound benefits and outcomes so that now we can accelerate the patient's health and their journey. It's oftentimes in one visit. So instead of saying to the patient, well, you got to come back 8 times this week. It's like, no, when you're here, we're going to do 3 things because when we stack all those things together, you're going to jump 10 steps ahead instead of 2 steps ahead. So it's really understanding first, what are we really good at? What are we known for? What do we do? And who's coming in? Because then you can say, oh man, ozone fits here, fits here, fits here. And along with that comes package creation. So this is where I love to get creative. I have a creative mind. And for me, ozone is one of those things, me and my wife, like if we ever travel, I'm doing ozone before I leave and I'm doing ozone before I get back. Why? Well, I know it's an immune modulator. I know it boosts all those things. And I know I'm going to get exposed to tons of garbage when I'm on a plane around tons of people and flying. And it helps prevent some of that fatigue and some all those good things. So could we create travel packages that say, hey, you're going to do 2 before you leave and 3 after, and now I can sell a 5 package because that's our travel optimizer, right? This is where you get creative of really understanding what it does and how to help people. Are there acute packages you can say, oh, are you dealing with an acute virus or bacterial infection because it's cold, flu season? We come in and hit you 3 times with the Myers and this. So this is where you got to again start thinking, where are we at? What tools do I have? How do I utilize them? And then what stories can I tell so that people understand? Because like ozone is tough to understand to a patient who's not familiar with it. It's like, wait, you're going to do what? You're going to draw my blood. You're going to mix it with a gas in a bag. And then you're going to put it back into me. And I'm going to say, yes, and that's 100% safe. And it's 100% amazing for you. But if I can frame it around a need of, hey, I always get sick when I travel, or I'm traveling and I can't get sick, or it's flu season and my kids are coming home from school sick and I don't want to get that. So this is where you have to start thinking who's coming in, who you're talking to, what their needs are, and how this tool can create a health mansion for them, which really all this does, for me, I call it building program protocols and experiences for our patients. It's really hard to sell therapies because of how cool, shiny, or unique they are. Most patients get lost in understanding the physiology of what's happening. I often tell people when I'm working with someone who's dealing with like a 10-year chronic illness that ozone is one of the best firefighters and disaster cleanup and repair teams all in one. So when I say that, they're like, oh, I get it. I'm living in a super inflamed place, but I also have to repair and rebuild my systems. So now I'm not building them a treatment plan. I'm building them a program, protocol, or an experience that's going to help take them from A to B. And so how to sell ozone for me, I feel like, and we talk about this in our clinic, I don't, um, we don't sell. We educate, we diagnose, we think biologically, and then we build experiences that include the tools such as ozone that can drive people to the outcome that they want to be. So to end this slide, yes, we're not selling. It's learning how to educate, package, and create experiences that people are looking for. They just don't know where to find them. So what is it like implementing this into a clinic? So similar to a lot of things, but there is a better way to do this because I have seen people who jump around and they get equipment, they might try to tell people about it, and then they realize, well, our staff doesn't even really know what they're doing. And so, right, so now it becomes, so how do we do this? So like anything, we want to get proper training first because there are rights and wrongs of how to do this. There are safety screenings, there are dosing frameworks, there are schedules and timings. And the cool part is, again, this has been around for 100 years, so there's actually tons of research out there that give us some of these protocols, give us some of these frameworks that we can lean on. But if you can get access to those and learn those first, then that's a great place to do. Getting hands-on supervised practice. Even, look, we have probably over the last 5 years had over 20 different nurses that work for us. And again, if you are someone who does ozone or a nurse and you bring a nurse that's worked in conventional medicine their whole career and you come and start to teach them that you're going to do what with blood, they're like blown out of their minds. And so learning how to do hands-on the safety protocols, how to make this work the right way with a training staff who can actually show you step by step by step. Yep, here's how you're going to do this. Here's how to make it easier. Here's how to make it easier on the patient, easier on you. Here's how to do 5 of these at a time so you can actually get people going and you feel confident and comfortable running these procedures that, again, are totally safe, totally easy. And then understanding equipment. There are good, bad, and indifferent equipment out there, and I've had all of the above. And there's a few brands that make really, really amazing equipment, but it's also like, what are the other little pieces do you need? Are there certain syringes or certain needles or certain IV catheters that auto clot, right? Like there's things to know. And so trust me, because I've done a lot of this the wrong way, and so doing it the right way really, really helps. So proper training is the first step, and then it's learning equipment. I also think this is important because I've seen a lot of people spend and buy a lot of things that they don't need to make this work. So it's saying, okay, I learned how to train. Now, what do I actually truly need to do this? And what are the consumables? What do I actually need? If I'm going to do 10 of these a week, what do I actually need and what's the reality? And what's cool about this, you start realizing the setup to do this, especially if you're already doing IVs in your practice, is so easy to do. If you're not doing IVs in your practice, the setup is so easy to do. And so understanding you don't need all of this extra stuff. It's knowing, hey, to do this procedure, here's the kit that I need, and we're going to do about X amount of these per week. And so we just start this cadence and start knowing how to do that. So education on proper, safe, approved equipment is critical here because there are good consumables like the right needles, catheters, tubing, and there are less good for this procedure. So learning that is critical. And then training your staff. So, like I said, when I first started this 8 years ago or more, doing it in our clinic, I went to all the trainings. I went to trainings in Mexico. I went to trainings all over the place. I took online trainings, and then said, okay, now I'm going to go hire an ER nurse and teach her how to do this. And it was like, she's like, wait, I've never done this before. This is weird. I'm like, I know, but at the training they said this. So, getting team and access to training for your team, especially those that are going to be executing the procedures, is tremendous. And look, I've leaned on people like Mallory, who's on this call, many, many times to help our nurses when I'm like, I don't know, I just know how to dose it and why a patient should do it. But then training my team, I mean, I know how to do the procedure now. And so I can walk somebody through how to do this with my eyes closed. But the right way to do what's the setup? How do we screen? What are questions are we asking? What are we talking about? Which, by the way, part of the quote unquote sales process is also having your nurses and your staff know how to say, okay, this is how you felt last time I saw you. How have you felt in between? And being able at least basically to know how to explain that good, bad, and different. Okay, you felt better. This is what we would expect. Oh, you had a little flare up or a dip. This is why that can happen. Because that keeps people on plan, keeps them saying, oh, okay, I am doing the right thing. And so I'm just going to continue to do the right thing because it's really helping. Your staff are your gold. And so I always want my nurses and my MAs and my phlebotomists to know how to do this so well, how to make it so comfortable. And then if there are weird things, who are the resources that you have to go to so that when you do have those questions, you can get them answered as quick as you can. And then once you have this together, you launch. Now, part of launch is being able to say, okay, we're going to charge this much. We understand about how long it takes. So this is how many we can do. What's our intake paperwork look like? How do we do that? So creating those systems, but then again, not marketing, but then how do we create that storytelling to your current patient base? And again, even if you're doing Ozone, how can you improve your storytelling and almost relaunch of, hey, if I'm a stem cell regenerative here's how Ozone fits, and here's why you want to do it, and here's what it means. We do a lot of Ozone post plastic surgery because they get referred to us. They heal so much faster, and but we tell the story Oh, you don't want to be bruised, you don't want to scar, you don't want to be inflamed, and you want all the tissue they just disrupted to heal faster. This is why you would do a 5 session protocol post your mommy makeover. And so launching is about who are our clients, who do we really want to target, what are the stories they're going to respond to, and how can I fill a need or a gap in that story that hasn't been filled that we can now go push, and then how is our team going to process those things behind. And this is where it gets fun, because this is where you get to give answers, solutions, and experiences to people that they some have been looking for, some didn't know they were looking for, but now have an opportunity to experience those things.
So good, Dr. Myers. Thanks for stepping us through all that.
You
We are
bet.
we are definitely going to do a Q&A in just probably 3 minutes. But before then, I'm going to walk everybody through what it would take to actually learn everything that Dr. Myers just talked about in 2 days. In fact, it's actually 1.5 days. So this is actually coming up. It's April 10th and 11th in Tampa, Florida. The first day is all the safety and the science. It's all the book learning. It's understanding the fundamentals and all the details that you need to do this. But the really fun part is the second day, Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is all the hands-on stuff. This is learning how to set up equipment, getting your hands on the equipment, clinic operations, workflow kind of stuff, and then actually doing the procedure. So we keep this to 40 people so that everybody gets a turn. We really try hard not to have crowded trainings. And the trainers who will be at this event are all clinicians who've done this for years and years and have been training between them hundreds of other practices. So we've really got this dialed down on how to put this all in your mind in a day and a half. So we have Michael Corbett. He's a high volume clinician. He's worked in clinics where they have lots of people in and out a day. Landon Keithley is an integrative clinic owner, and Mallory is also an integrative clinic owner. And we'll have her on at the end too. She's been answering questions in the chat, but also she can answer your questions about the event. So we have really talented, skilled people who've done this so much and can explain it to you all really simply. And then you're going to go home with a few things. One is a IB ozone certification. Soon after the event, you'll get the event recordings. I'm not going to say you maybe snuck off to the beach in Tampa during one of the sessions, but if you did, we've got you. And then also, like Dr. Myers talked about, when you get home, you got to show your staff how to do this. We have a whole online course that will train your staff in all the fundamentals for you, so you only have to walk them through the hands-on stuff. We've got a whole compliance library. We've already thought of all the documentation and all the things that you need to do to stay on the right side of the line legally. And then you're not on your own. We've got a 60-day implementation program where you have multiple opportunities and channels to reach out to us to get your questions answered. So you are not going to be on an island by yourself trying to figure this out. We'll be there to help. And something that's new, the 30-day payback plan, we'll talk about more in a moment, but it's us stepping you through exactly what you need to do to get profitable as soon as possible, even in month one. So, keeping seats capped at 40, this is what it looks like. We've got an early bird special running until March 13th. For one ticket, it's $14.97. If you want two tickets, it's $24.97. That again is actually for the next month. And then on that team tickets, you can add additional team members for $500. So we try to make it really easy to bring the whole team if you want to. The last three events we've done have all sold out because we only can allow 40. And so I'm almost sure this will sell out too. And right now, we don't have a next one on the schedule. For now, this is it. So, what happens in Tampa does not stay in Tampa. This is not that kind of getaway because when you go home, you are ready to hit the ground running. Monday, you're going back to your clinic with the protocols. Week one, you're doing supervised treatments with your staff. Week two, they're running it independently, totally without you, so that the end of month one, you are earning $5,000 a month in new high margin revenue. So the 30-day payback plan we talked about, this is something you'll get after the event. It's a whole plan, it's a blueprint for you to start making money right away. You've invested money in the event. By then, to get started, you'll have to invest in some equipment, and we want to see you recoup that as soon as possible. So, how do you identify current patients that are ideal? How do you talk to them about ozone, like Dr. Myers spoke about? Someone who's chronically ill or foggy brain, you can't go into this deep science, right? So what are some ways to easily explain this and how to handle the most common objections and questions so you can get up and running with ozone in your clinic right away? So I'm going to drop a link to the page where you can sign up right now in the chat. I lost the chat. Here we go. And now we're going to get to the live question answering. If you've got anything you want to ask about the economics for Dr. Myers, or also we're going to bring on Mallory to answer your event questions. And there's Mallory. She looks so warm and cozy. She just moved from Arizona to Nashville, which just got that crazy storm like not that long ago, right? I used to live there and we don't normally get weather like that.
No, it was insane. People said they hadn't seen this in like 30 years.
I that was the 30-year one. I
Yeah.
that's when I lived there and we
Yeah.
had the ice storm of like 94 or whatever.
Yes, that was all. It wasn't like this since 94.
Okay, so we had a lot of questions come in the chat, a handful of them. Were you answering them as we went?
I was trying.
I'm
Um,
going to pull out one here just because we were talking about some business numbers and Dr. Alexia, if I'm saying that correct, you had a good question about pricing or packages. So this is an interesting way to think about this too. If you're trying to figure out ROI now on a course, equipment, all of those things. Because if we, you do the math on your travel, the course, and okay, so now I got to recruit somewhere between $7,000 to $10,000 of how to get in to make this work. So when we said like two patients, now again, we always drive what I call condition specific protocol. So our packages, which was your question, are all built based on what I know, conditions that might need five, that might need 10 ozones, that might need 20. Um, and then we sell, so again, we're even on the low end of the average. We charge 150 per IV. I would say most people probably charge between 200 and 250. But again, I'm stacking with a lot of things. So I'm also thinking economically of where I can build and hide margin when I'm building a package with people. So our five session, which is probably our least sold session, is $675. So there's a little bit of savings there. And I'm just opening up my books to you. Okay, our 10 session is 1,215. Our 20 session, which is probably the one we use most of the time, is 2,400. So even on equipment, I need two patients before I'm paid off. We throw in the training and everything. You need three patients, and if you know how to use this right, and then everything post that becomes revenue or just revenue and profit margin for you. But again, that's understanding, and I know Mallory can talk to this too. It's understanding I have this really cool tool. What do I do with it? Well, when you know how to build it in to apply to the person in front of you, this actually gets really easy. It gets really easy. In fact, people come asking for it, but I probably give ozone to more people who didn't even know what it was when they started, but they understand that that's an answer to what they're going through. And so I'm on board. I got it.
That was great. Thank you.
that was good.
Is there any other here in the questions that didn't get answers that popped out to you? Here we have one.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Um, I'm not sure if anyone asked this for Sonia. If the body is in cell danger response, fight and flight response, cell hardening, will ozone still be received as well? Anything to do in right before to help?
My answer to that question is I need to understand more information. Those are to me kind of a lot of not, they're not specific enough about what's going on with the patient. And that's something we can handle in offline conversations. Now, that said, like there's some things that people have asked about on here and patients do. Can ozone make me feel worse, quote unquote? So, and this is conversations for the training. So ozone by nature has what almost like a stimulating effect to kind of almost trigger certain parts of your immune system to react because something is it almost like stirs the pot a little bit. If I'm dealing with somebody that's dealt with chronic illness, I prep them to know there might be a day after you've done 7 of these, the eighth one, you're going to go home and feel crappy. And really, that tells me it's working. And the best thing you can do is come in the next day and get it again because it's probably going to get you out of the crappy. And so when you just preface that with people of, hey, just, and you got to eat, you got to hydrate. Like the first time I ever had an ozone, I didn't do all those things. I felt like I had the flu for 6 hours. I went to bed and woke up and it was totally fine. That's very common. I won't say normal, I would say common. So this is where education around that goes in. So when you're saying cell danger response, fight or flight response, so I'm like, well, I got to know more what all those things mean in that personal context because in some situations the answer could be you bet ozone's great for those. If they're in fight or flight response because they have a true phobia against needles and IVs, then ozone is not the answer for them. So I think that question just needs some more clarity around when, why, and how.
Thank you. Gabriel asked first, he says, can we get access to this recording? Yeah, we've had several people ask. I'll try to actually get that out today. And then a technical question. If someone has G6PD, can you give a lower dose ozone?
And Mallory, you can maybe speak to that. G6P, I'll just say this for this webinar. G6PD typically applies way more to if you're doing high dose vitamin C than ozone. Typically, even if somebody has a G6PD deficiency, they're totally safe with ozone. Did I get a second amen from that? Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I was gonna say. We're in the protocol that we train on, three in IV ozone, we're not doing high doses of ozone. So that you can have someone, so that question came up a couple times, like how much would you give to someone with the G6PD? You would still do the normal protocol set in place because we're not giving a high enough dose to cause
Yep.
that event. So I can't speak to EBU or anything beyond that, just for like what we specialize in train in. And then, so uh, I echo exactly. I agree with you totally.
There's been a question asked a couple times about like the qualifications of your staff, and I'm going to stay in the generic place here of you have to look at what your state's qualifications are to run IVs in your clinic. So, for example, in Utah, I am a chiropractor by license. It says I can oversee IV therapies in my office as long as they are not scheduled drugs or medications. Um, Now, I don't have the certification to put a needle or an IV catheter in somebody's arm, so I hired nurses and phlebotomists to do that. But in Utah, my license covers me to do that. I also have a DO who works for me, which just kind of solves the situation. So if we do need to do any scheduled drug medication like Zofran or stuff like that with IV therapies, that's taken care of. But my kind of blankets, like cover your butt statement is you just need to know what your state's because the honest truth here is every state's different. So I mean, we could tell you, but you just got to do the work to say, hey, I have ABC initials after my name in my state. What does that mean for me? Um, and then you just got to do some research to figure that out. There are some cool companies out there like Guardian MD and stuff that do medical oversight that include. So there's resources if your licensure doesn't allow you to do this. Um, and I'm probably talking in circles, but the short answer is you just got to find out what your state requires to do. And Mallory, again, ozone doesn't necessarily have a special classification. If your license allows you to oversee and or do IV therapies that are not scheduled drugs, ozone falls under that umbrella.
Yep. But I will say, like for me and what I'm comfortable with, Dr. Myers may be different, especially because he's working in a brick and mortar situation and has supporting staff there. So his level of comfortability may look a little bit different than mine. I own a mobile clinic, and so I tend to only hire critical care nurses because I they're out on their own, and so they don't have the oversight immediately there to like troubleshoot with them. And so I think it comes back to one, exactly what Dr. Myers was saying, but also, so not only your scope of practice in your state, but just your level of comfortability, because ultimately you are taking that on, you're taking on that liability. So I've heard of places where they have medical assistants doing IVs, and quite honestly, that makes me a little bit nervous because there's so much more that goes into an infusion rather than just starting an IV. But that's me. I tend to lean a little bit conservative on that way. So
Thank you both. Next question. How many passes does one treatment contain?
You want to answer that one, Mallory? I only do single pass.
yeah, same.
I'm not a fan of the 10 pass.
Yep.
603 IV ozone doesn't teach that.
Yep.
There's like a half an hour to an hour long conversation. Why? Um, I don't ascribe to multi-pass. So we do single pass, but proper dosing, proper frequency. You get a way better outcome than trying to slam supposedly 10 doses of ozone in one sitting. So, um,
Yep.
that's all I'll say about
I
that.
say the same thing. And maybe Micah would say this as well. The research just isn't, the evidence isn't there to support it,
Mm-mm.
that it's worth the time and the effort and the cost and all the things that go into it. The evidence just is not there to support it, that it's necessary to do multiple passes like that.
So Solomon, your question of what is the dose for a single treatment, there's kind of a range of dosages that you can do. And this is one of the things the conference teaches is really ozone dosage is a math equation of the concentration of the ozone, how much ozone mixed with how much blood you're pulling out of the patient gives you the dosage. Um, and so you can actually play with that in some safe limits to deliver like low, medium, and quote unquote high dosages. So um, it's hard for me to answer here what a dose is for a single treatment because we actually have protocols that include multiple different dosages. Especially with a new chronic illness patient, we are starting them off low and stair stepping them up and making sure they can tolerate it.
Next question. If we have any other trainings offered, they have an event on April 11th right now, Mallory. I don't think we have another one on the books yet, do we?
No, but I do host a webinar. So Rebecca, you were kind of asking, she sent this to me. I host a webinar twice a week on going over what is ozone and what it looks like to bring into your clinic, touch on the ROI and all that, and how to bring it into your clinic. So, and then we help you with all the onboarding and everything that you need to bring it into your clinic. And so right now, we don't have anything else on the book, so you could attend one of those webinars in lieu. But I mean, there is some chatter behind the scenes of wanting to do more of these. So I don't want to say, no, we're not going to do any more. But if you'd like to hop on one of those webinars, or I'm happy to hop on a phone call and kind of direct you in the direction of what would be best suited for you and where you're at in the journey. And Rebecca, I took down your name. So.
Michael asks, what's the equipment cost? We did cover that at first. Maybe you came on late. Typically, the equipment cost window is $3,000 to $5,000. Do you teach ozone injection?
All I'm gonna say about this, because I don't want to get anybody's hypes up, is we have been kicking around this idea in MediSkill for a couple of years. I would love to. I do lots of amazing things with ozone injections in our clinic. So if there's enough interest, keep hitting us up and we'll see if that's something we can do later on this year.
I get asked about weekly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Okay.
Ozone injection, is it direct ozone? Is the question.
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to wait for the court. No, yeah. So I do direct ozone. You can do what's called like and there's some trademarks here, but like a prolozone. That's common. I get the same benefits with just doing direct ozone for less cost because I'm not doing all the other stuff. You can mix it in with all sorts of things. Um, but yeah, for the most part, I would say I do direct ozone into lots of things: tissue, tendon, nerve, soft tissue, paraspinal, um, with some rashes, bug bite, like you name it. We do some pretty cool stuff with injections. Um, so yeah, stay tuned for that, maybe coming out later this year.
Okay, I think we got all the questions answered. If we did not answer your question and you're still with us, would you mind just asking it again? We got a lot of chatter in there. I think we got them all.
And I did see, Karen, I'll send you an invoice. We'll get that over to you. If there's anybody else that's interested in that webinar or the training, Tampa, let us know and we'll send you an invoice as well.
Packaging and pricing, I'll just hit you again really quick because I think I
Oh, yeah, we need to go. Sorry, there is a Q&A question area. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, so yeah, just from at our pricing. So, and we're on the, I will tell you, we're on the low end. We do 150 for one, five, I think I said is 675. So you get a little bit of a discount. 10 IVs is 1215, so 1,215, and 20 is 2,400. So kind of similar to how I package everything else. The more you buy, the percentage discount gets a little bit bigger. But again, I built those based around typical protocols that I would do for conditions. And so there's certain conditions that I know I'm starting at 20. There's others I know we can blast with five. There's some it's like, hey, let's start with 10 and see where you go. So it's already knowing that clinically, then building that business side. So when people come in, it's like, all right, we're starting with 20 and here's why. Or I need you to do five in the next 10 days and here's why, right? So they're very clinically based, but that's how that works from a pricing standpoint. And yes, this again, we do not teach, I do not do UV, and IV ozone and Metascale all simply like does not teach UV. So this is all just straight ozone.
Yeah, that was one of the
I
questions.
don't know if you can see that down at the bottom, there's the
Oh
Q&A.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's just a couple questions there.
How can the clinic mitigate risks and lawsuits doing ozone? What is recommended to say or document and have them sign something in particular besides a basic
It'd
consent?
be great for them to attend the Tampa training.
Yep. So
They
all the
will go
compliance
over.
stuff they provide is
Yeah.
good. And then the only other thing I would say, and this comes in that, but it's like you also hop on the phone with your malpractice provider, just tell them what you're doing and ask what additionally you need to do. And that's where you go through. If you're stacking ozone with other therapies, I would say let's have an offline conversation of what to do first, when, why, an optimal sequence. There's some logistical things, right? Like, if I have a hard vein poke and I want them to do IV, I might put them in the sauna before they come into the IV room just to help those veins kind of fill up and their tissue to ease a little bit. So there's some logistical things like that. We use a flow presso in our office, which is a full body, basically compression detox suit. I'm going to do that before because I don't want them to have a bandage on their arm that if they compress, it could bleed more. So there's some of those logistics. Then there's some other things like I will always try to do an IV before they get into the H-spot. There's no research that's going to prove this why, but in my mindset, I understand if I'm going to load the veins with cool stuff and then the H spot helps push it farther. And so there's some clinical reasoning there that suggests that that's a good, it wouldn't possible. So we actually have a whole document that we created in our office of preferred order of things, and our staff just uses that. So when we're doing these plans, it's like, hey, if they're doing a Myers and this, which comes first? If they're doing this with an NAD, which comes first? So And there some of it's logistics because of the type of procedure. Some of it are some therapeutic backing of why we would do that. So
Lots of cool stuff going on at the movement clinic. Whoa.
yeah, we have
It's
fun.
incredible. You should see it. It's like state of the art. It is.
You're kind. Maybe we'll do the injection training here later this year.
Yes. Yes. And then
Gabriel was
all the
asking how
more.
much is it for the next month. The Tampa training is 14.97 for one ticket, 24.97 for two. But maybe you're also asking about equipment. So normally startup costs of
Yes. Oh
equipment
my God.
is 3 to 5 thousand.
No,
And I'm
really, that's
telling
fine.
you, if
I
you
get
come
asked
to,
all the time. Yeah.
okay. And I'm telling you guys, if like, look, I'm like a lot, I'm a practitioner. Mallory is a practitioner. Like, I have to go places and spend money to get my Cs. And my question is always, and like, this isn't a plug necessary for this, it's in general. Like, I feel like you should be always asking, because I do, and I talk to my staff who has to go do this too, is whatever you go do that weekend, can you come back and somehow start applying it Monday or within the next 7 days? And and that it's a few things. One, can you learn enough about the therapy to comfortably do it? Can you get the tools and resources? And ozone is literally one of those things that, like, easily less than 30 days, probably within a couple weeks, you can be up and running and making dramatic change. Um, and I know in our practice, that's kind of the way I am. And the first ozone training I went to, I like on the flight home, I ordered everything, showed up, talked to a nurse friend of mine, and we started messing around with it, doing a lot of things wrong, which now there's training and people like Mallory and stuff to help you not do that. But I'm like not a patient person, and so like wanted to start doing this right away. You can safely and knowledgeable like have all the tools, resources, compliance, et cetera, probably and not probably in less than 30 days up and running doing this and making this thing happen. So
Mhm. Yeah.
thanks for coming, everybody, on a Friday. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Training.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, this was so great. I'm not on the clinical side and I learned a lot, so I'm more excited about ozone.
Come
Oh, we'll
on
get
over,
you hooked.
Chris, and
Yeah,
I'll
we'll get
Yeah,
you
say,
yeah, I'll
hooked.
have to come on over. We have a daughter who sounds like she could use your help and you're really smart. So I'll
He
be in
is.
touch.
Yes.
let's do it.
Christina, I will text you. Oh my God.
Okay. Have a great weekend. See you all in Tampa, if not before.
Mallory, before I end the meeting, I want to make sure you got everything you need out of the chat.
Yes, I just wrote it all down.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Thanks for attending, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Okay. All right. Bye, guys.